G'day folks, Rod from My Water Filter here today, and what we're going to do is take a look at the Aquasana reverse osmosis system and actually do an installation on it, okay? So we'll just step through it nice and slowly. I've laid all the parts out here in front of us, and I'll do my best to explain everything to you as we go. Now the situation is, they are a quality company in that they try to think of everything that you're going to need, all right? And to start with, here's the installation book. And the reason I mention that is because it's worth having a look at it. Obviously we get customers ring up, the water's doing this or the water's doing that. Well, most of the time they haven't read the book and just put the flow restrictor in or something simple like that. So they work very well. We have no trouble with them at all. We sell a massive amount of them. So they're a great little water filter. The NS certifications, etc., is why they're so popular, is the whole system's been NSF certified. They deliver a 7 pH water, which is very good. And they're just a credible company, and we bring them over from the USA. So please take a look at the book. It's a good booklet. It explains everything to you in there, and it's even got a big guide and a big image on how everything goes together. And there it is, right in the middle of the book. So plain sailing, just take a look at that baby, and it's all there for you, okay? Now, there is a couple of things that we do here in Australia at My Water Filter that makes it the reason why people should buy an Aquasana water filter off of us. And it's simply because the American and the Australian components are just different. And we get the Australian components, put them into the box as soon as they get here to Australia. So when they get to the customer is able to just install it straight in. If they brought a Aquasana reverse osmosis system off eBay or somewhere else, they're just not going to have the required parts, and they will not go together. And we already know this because people then come ringing us up asking us to supply the parts for them because they don't have them. So just quickly, here's some parts here in front of us. And obviously when we go to install a water filtration system, the first thing we're going to do is turn the water supply off, and it can either be here underneath the sink. We'll turn the water supply off, turn the tap on. There we go, water's off straight away, and that's a beautiful thing. If you haven't got an on-off stop valve under the sink here, then you'll have to go outside and turn it off at the main. So we're going to turn the water off, water's off, and we're good to go. From there, we'll come inside and we're going to look to remove the chrome flexible hose that goes to the kitchen tap, use the dishwasher tap, something like that, to get our water feed from. And in America, this is the part that comes, this is the T-piece basically, the T-piece that comes from America for the system. And their 1/2 inch is just far smaller than ours. Nothing wrong with it, it's just that it's a different size, okay? Water still goes through it perfectly over in that country, but it just won't fit on here. You can see up underneath the sink here possibly, this is the most common T-piece that we use here in Australia. And keep your eye out if you've got an Aquasana water filter, because this is possibly the T-piece that you'll be receiving in the future. Currently at the moment, this is the T-piece that we're supplying. So we're pulling out the American T-piece, and we've just got the good little old ball valve here, the ball valve which screws into the chrome block, and that's what creates the T-piece. So this is the T-pieces that we're supplying here in Australia to replace this one here, okay? On this installation here today, I'm going to use the T-piece that we've already installed here earlier, because that's the one we're moving to and it's the most common one. So keep your eye on that one. But all of the systems we've got at the moment, to replace that, we're replacing them with this, all right? And that's the same, that just screws straight on, and the chrome flexible hose screws on there, and that's the water feed then going to the water filter, the same as you can see this one here under the sink, okay? So we'll nip that one there out of the road. So once we got that, on with the T-piece, and then we connect it up to towards the system. So here's the manifold for the system, and just before we go there, the second thing that we do is we supply a pressure limiting valve, okay? In America, they don't seem to have the high pressures we got here in Australia, and our pressures here really do vary. It's a bit of a challenge for us at times. Example, in the Vines in Perth, you might have 30 pounds per square inch, 30 psi of water pressure pushing on your home. Get over to the east coast of Australia, the Gold Coast and some of those sort of places. Some places are anywhere up to 135 psi, so a massive difference. 85 in the psi in the middle of Sydney. So we put a pressure limiting valve on there. And when you've got a high pressure in the home, the washing machine's turning on and off, things like that, can put surges through the water line and they can bust into the water filter, and you can create some leaking. So we put a pressure limiting valve on here in Australia. You'll notice the arrow, it does have a direction of flow, but that's where the pressure limiting valve goes after the T-piece, with the arrow in the right direction, on its way to the water filter, and as that water's fed in, it just stops any sudden surges. So all our Aquasana RO systems will have a NS certified pressure limiting valve supplied with them there as well. Okay. I'll put this tank in last, but this is the tank. Quickly, a few do's and don'ts on the tank. Don't touch this blue cap at the bottom. I'll screw it off so you can see it if you want to have a look what's in there, so you just can get that out of the way. But this here is just a cap, like a valve cap on a car, just a bit fancier. And this is just like a valve on a car. There's a bag inside the tank because the water filters filter down so finely that it takes a long time to fill this tank up at a couple of 100 mils a minute. And so there's a bag inside it. So when you hit the faucet on the sink, it's not the water pressure in the home that's delivering the water, it's actually the bag expanding inside the tank, pushing the water out, up and out of the faucet. So that bag inside the tank, it has air inside of it, but not much, 4 to 7 psi probably. So very low pressure. This is where it's filled up from. Now if you come along and test it and push on the valve, you're letting some of your air out, and there's not much air in it to start with, so just leave it alone. They're preset for the factory before they come to us, so there's no need for you to take this blue cap off and do anything with this. On saying that, if there was some reason you had a very slow delivery of water coming out of your faucet, my thoughts would be, as long as the system's creating water and filling the tank, is that the bag's lacking air in the tank. And in that situation, you wouldn't grab the tank and take it down the garage and stick the pressure gauge on it. You'd probably blow the bag up. You just get a bike pump, like a push bike pump, and put a few pumps into it. Get a low pressure gauge, put it on, 7 psi, and you should be good to go, okay? So let's just leave that one alone unless there's issues, and we can look at that point of time then, okay? All right, up on the top is the second point, and this is where the water goes into the tank, and it's the same hose that the water gets pushed out of the tank as well. Now when they're supplied by Aquasana, this is the fitting that comes, all right? It just screws on the top of the tank there like so. Don't get me wrong, that fitting will work. It's going to connect onto the pipe and get delivered back to and from the system. The problem with this one here is there's no way to turn the water off. So if you've got a full tank of water and then we want to work on the system or change the cartridge or do something, you can't stop the water coming out of the system, all right? If you've got one of these connections on the top of your tank and you want to work on the system, what you can do is remove the last cartridge, okay? So if you take that cartridge out, then you should be able to work on it and no water should be coming and going. But saying that, the best way is we supply these little connections. These are actually a John Guest connection and they're a tap, so they're an on-off tap, okay? So we want to swap this one. They might use these in America. What we use here in Australia is this new John Guest connection, and then at any stage, water on, water off. Just on or off, no problem at all, okay? So we can just connect that one on there. Obviously some thread tape around the top of it, 6 wraps of thread tape, and then we'll screw that one on the top and we're done and we're good to go, okay? So we'll come back to that RO tank when we need him, and that'll be towards the end, okay? All right, now I'll talk about the last component that we sort of change over, and this is called the saddle, okay? This is a saddle, and this saddle goes onto the waste pipe under the sink. And with the reverse osmosis water filter, obviously they create a certain amount of waste water. They collect all the pure water in the tank, and the waste water and the mineral and the contamination goes down the drain. And when the waste pipe goes down the drain, it has to be connected, and that's where these saddles are used. In America, they use a smaller drain pipe than in Australia, all right? They're probably like a 40 millimeter, and this connection is not gonna fit on there, okay? It's just not big enough, wide enough. So in Australia, we've got a 2-inch clamp, so just keep your eye out for this one. These are the two that are replaced. We're replacing this one with this Australian one. You basically just undo the worm clip, open it up, wrap it around. You've got to drill a hole in here. We'll get to that in a minute, but that's the other one that we replace here in Australia, okay? So that's just a brief overview of our replacement parts, and now we can move forward and we will put him in. Okay, so first thing we normally do, obviously we've got the T-piece installed. On this one today, we've also got the faucet installed, and what we're going to do now is this is the manifold, so we'll get the manifolds fixed up into place, and the cartridges will fit up into it in a while. And there's a couple of little holes underneath where we can insert the screws and bolt it up underneath. So I'll just get a little texter, a pen here, and put a couple of marks there, and we'll get this one installed. Okay, once we've done that, we'll get out of the drill. We'll just put a little pilot hole in there so it's easy to get the drill a screw in, screw the screw in. That's right. Alright, and as we say, supplied with the kit, here's a couple of screws. And we'll just screw them into the hole quickly now. Once we get these couple of screws in, the manifold should slip in nicely up above it. Okay, and then we can just hopefully nip him up with this one. Not a lot of room in there, so I'll just make sure that he is tight, and we'll move on. That's one. Okay, that'll keep us going today. All right, so once we got the manifold installed up there, we're all good to go. This is the water inlet feed. We've already got a pipe there, so we're just going to connect that one up on top. It's got the hole up there, and that basically just pushes straight in to the top of the manifold. And if you do have a look at the your diagram here, you can see it plain and simple that here's the feed. And it's going along, but we've just inserted a pressure limiting valve halfway along that line, and then we've pushed the hose into the top of the manifold at the top, okay? And what we'll do now is we can put in some cartridges. So these are the cartridge holders, okay? So just be aware that with these, you open the holder up, and there's the cartridge on the inside. This is done just environmentally friendly reasons. You're not throwing a whole plastic cartridge away every time. It's just the inside, okay? And the O-rings just push up into the head cap, like so. Now we just screw the bottom on, all right? Beautiful. And then they do go one way. You've got those little double nipples there. Push him up and turn it to the right, okay? Okay, now I'll put the other end one on now as well. I won't undo this, but it's the same thing. Inside here is the cartridge, and this is stage 3. Okay, they're pretty easy ones to get into place, all right? Now this is the membrane. Now with the membrane, this is the heart and the soul of this machine. So the water's coming in, it's getting filtered, and when it goes through the membrane, it's really taken all of that garbage out, all right? This is the powerhouse of the machine, and this is what splits the water. So the water's coming in, it's splitting the water, the quality water is getting filtered and coming back out the top and going through to the tank, and the waste water is coming out of this hole at the bottom, okay? So we'll connect him on, but it's vitally important that you get this part right. Once again, it's in that book, and I highly recommend you take a look at it, all right? So there's a few parts that we got here. There's a little elbow, and this is called a flow restrictor. Now, if you don't put this flow restrictor in and you turn it on, water will take the path of least resistance, and most of the water is just going to go straight down the drain, all right? You'll see it just flowing straight through, and if you're using the vented Aquasana faucet, it's probably just going to leak straight out of the vent in the bottom of the faucet, and you'll just get nowhere. It'll just be leaking all the time. So it's vitally important that this flow restrictor is installed, all right? And where it gets installed is on the line that goes up to the faucet, okay? So I'll show you the faucet here. This is the Aquasana faucet. It's got 2 hoses on it, okay? The fat one here is just going straight to our waste clamp, and that's going out to waste. And this one here is going into the bottom of our membrane, okay? And what happens is the water comes out of the membrane, comes up to the faucet, and there's an air gap in here, and you see the little hole at the back of the faucet, okay? And then this continues to the waste. Now, if something went wrong and the sink was full of water, or the septic blocked up and it all came up through the sink or something like that, that's what this air gap's for. The water will start going up this waste pipe from the waste clamp, from the waste water line, and it'll come out of this hole here. It won't push back up into the water filter and contaminate the water filter. So that's why Aquasana use this one here, okay? If for some reason you didn't want to have the pipes, or you had a faucet on your sink that you love and you wanted to keep that faucet, well, you can do that. You can actually hook these up without that faucet there. And the way that you do that, you've still got to apply the elbow and the flow restrictor into the bottom of our membrane. That's just a must. That's how it goes, and it has to happen. But what you would do is you would have this wastewater line not coming up through the faucet, okay? The wastewater line, and I'll show you again in a moment, will just connect straight into the wastewater and go straight down the sink. It just bypasses the faucet. We use a normal faucet. So basically, if we don't use this faucet, we use the wastewater line straight into the drain and down the drain, and the quality water, as you can see here, the quality water goes on the bottom of the faucet, so it's just going to connect straight onto the bottom of any faucet you want to use at all. And this extra pipe from the air gap is just obsolete, because this hose is just going straight to waste, okay? So we want to use him. Okay. All right, and we're going to hook this up and we'll run it straight down this drain eventually, okay? So this is how it goes. This is the flow restrictor, and this flow restrictor is going to be inserted believe it or not, even though that's so thin and skinny and fine, I can suck air through it, okay? It's very fine. And that's where your wastewater's going, down through that line, or else you'd have 1/4 inch of wastewater instead of a tiny little pipe like that one. So you just install that fine line straight into the water line, okay? So the flow restrictor goes straight into the wastewater line, little rubber on the back, you can push that into that hose to make sure that it seals. Okay, get him in there. Beautiful. As you can see, a little bit of lubrication helps to slide him in there. We're good to go. From there, normal John Guest fitting, okay? And we're going to push that flow restrictor straight into our John Guest fitting. And it does push in there. Make sure you give it a push. It does a double click and it will push in there. That will not come out, okay? You've got to push on those collars so that you can pull this out if and as required, okay? So make sure he's all intact there, and we just push him in, bang, in he goes, double shot. From there, this elbow is going straight in the bottom of your Aquasana RO. Once again, you never pull that out. You have to push in the red collar. Once you push that red collar in, then you'll be able to pull that out. If you don't push that red collar in, you will break something, forcing it to come out. All right, so he's in there, and that's on. Now we're going to screw the top up into the top. All right, you'll just sit behind there, and we'll get that one in a minute. Put a drain clamp on, and the wastewater from that membrane is just going straight down the drain via this clamp, okay? Okay, we might as well, while we're at it, maybe we'll just put him on right now so we can see him. Okay, now we're going to get the drill, and we're going to need at least a 1/4 inch hole to drill into the waste pipe. Okay, so we loosen him off, we can open him up. Now where I would go with this one here is, here's the waste trap there. You want to be above the waste, okay? Don't get down below it, get up above the waste. So we'll put him up here high. Could go in here as well even. And I wouldn't even put it at the bottom, okay? I'd get it up the top, all right? Something like so, so that you've got to be able to get there and drill a hole, obviously. So it has to be somewhere where you can drill a hole. But we like it so that the hose is coming along, and the hose is going through this connector and then just pushing down into the water, and the water will dribble away and dribble in. And it certainly can connect onto here as well, okay? So simple as it is, get a drill, just a tiny bit bigger drill bit than the 1/4 inch hose. We are going to push it in through there, and we get the drill, and we basically drill straight into our wastewater pipe, and then we're going to tighten this up again. So can you just put the hole on here, right over the hole that you've drilled in the side of the wastewater clamp, the wastewater pipe, okay? We'll just tighten this one up. This is an adjustable size. It's a good thing about these hose clamp style clamps, that regardless of what size hose you got within wastewater pipe you've got within reason, this will clamp on there, no worries at all. Okay, position him over our hole. Tighten him up nice and not crazy tight, but tight. We want it to get right in that hole and make a seal there. We don't want any water draining out of it, okay? Once that's done, we're going to get our hose and just push our hose straight in like so. Once again, there's a collar on there. You'll never pull that out. If you want to get it out, you've got to push in on the collar and then you can pull your hose out, okay? All right. Anyway, she's locked in there, and she's locked in there good today. What we will do though, we'll cut him to length so that we've got a nice, neat connection there though. I think that's what we'll do. That's probably going to be about how we want to. Put a little bit loose. I'll just leave a little bit extra loose. We want him as good as we can. Get him. Okay, and that's so, okay? Very good. Then the water's coming in now. It's going to go through those 3 cartridges that we've put in, and obviously up and down through the RO. Wastewater's coming to waste, and we are good to go with now putting the outflowing side connections on, okay? So this is the remineralizer. I really like this remineralizer because obviously when the RO system rips the mineral out of the water, the pH of the water plummets, and we're probably in Australia going to have like 6 pH water with no mineral in it. This one here, it's got a lot of raw products, calcium, magnesium, etc., and it elevates the pH to be up around the 7 mark again, okay? So once again, there's a little clamp supplied, the screw supplied, the clamp supplied. We're going to screw that into the back of the cupboard. And then that's just going to lock straight on there to hold our remineralizer in place, like so. All right, now we'll just get some pipe for that one. Okay, so we start here. This is just the pipe coming for the remineralizer. Once again, John gets pushing fittings. Push them right in, won't come out. You've got to push the collar in to get that out, okay? So let's just push him in. He's locked in there and he's good to go. And then this is going to go up on the top there. There we go. Okay. Now there is different size pipes used with these systems, folks, okay? So what you need to do is make sure you have a look at the instructions and you get the pipe sizing correct. Most of them are already cut to size and lengths, and then you just trim them up as you need them, all right? So that one will go on there in a second. Just nip in here, see if we can put this one on the top. Locked in there, dark as anything, it's all good, okay. See if we can straighten that pipe out a little bit. Okay. Okay. Now that's our water coming out. Very good. Okay, then we'll probably come and do the tank, okay? So in relation to the tank, I thought I had another, oh yeah, I can use that one there. Okay. Okay, what are we going to have on there? Today, this was an example to show you what's going on, but I do need a 3/8 connection for here. The other thing that Aquasana supplies, you can see here, is a little bit of thread tape, okay? It's not on the, not like we used to see in here in Australia, which is this one here, all right? But it's still good quality thread tape and do need to use it, all right? When you're wrapping it on, wrap it on clockwise so that you're not undoing it as you do up the thread, all right? So we'll just wrap him on here. We'll be good to go. It's one. Beautiful. Take your time with all this stuff. Nowadays, most things are plastic, and on saying that, they do work okay. There's no ifs or buts about it, but obviously I'm a steel man and used to everything being in steel. So what we want to do is make sure that we have got the threads right at the start. You just can't afford to be cross-threading your threads in this game, okay? So we'll get the Aquasana RO tank, and we're going to sit him up there underneath the sink. The tank does have a stand. The tank can be laid on its side like that. Isn't going to make any difference. This tank just really doesn't care how it goes, all right? You can do anything with it. It's a sealed unit, and the water's just going to go in and out on this top connection and out at the bottom, okay? So today, I think we're going to be in luck with this cupboard. There's enough room in it. So we'll juggle him about, and I think we'll pull him off okay, get him in there. Okay, there we go. So we'll get that one, and we will put him in up the back there. I'll just get a bit of hose cut for him. Okay. This is a proper hose cutter, okay? They don't cost very much. They're handy to have because they cut the thread, they cut the water pipe nice and square and without squashing it. So it's still nice and beautiful round. It's a great way to do it. So now we're just going to take this and install it into the system and into the top of that tank, okay? Let's push him in there. With this one here, it is a lock-on thread, so we're going to undo it. Just be aware there's a collar in there as well. Plastic, be aware, make sure you got him right. We're good to go. Not any leaks later on. Okay. Okay. All right. Looking good. Okay, now situation here now is normally we would run the water from the bottom of that alkalizer, remineralizer. We call it a remineralizer with Aquasana because they are a quality product to put the minerals back in. So a lot of time they're called alkalizers, but with the Aquasana one, we call it a remineralizer, putting minerals back in the water. So once the system has filtered the water, obviously our feeds here, water's coming in, getting filtered, RO, into the tank, out of the tank, getting filtered, coming out of our remineralizer here, and then from the remineralizer, we're basically going straight to the faucet. Plugged on there. This is our live water line, and that will go straight in to the bottom of your faucet like that. The same as I'll plug it into the bottom of that faucet over there like that. Obviously this is the Aquasana faucet that comes with it, and normally our wastewater is going into here, through the air gap we spoke of earlier, out of this red pipe and down the drain, and then the water's filtered and the quality water comes back up and it just goes straight through the internal shaft, on and off with the water, and it'll flow out. But we're not using this Aquasana vented faucet today. We're just going to have a normal faucet up here. So this hose is just going straight back up over the top, and we'll plug him on the bottom of this faucet, and the water's going to come out of this faucet here. Okay, now that's pretty much installed. All right, she's there ready to go. At this point of time, what we would do is turn on the water outside, or turn on the water here, turn on the T-piece, and the water will start coming into the system and going through the system. All right, it's going to make water very slowly. That's what reverse osmosis systems do. So there's a couple of things you can do. You can just turn on your faucet, and as the water's dribbling through slowly, it's just going to go down the drain. It's just going to dribble out of the faucet here at a couple of 100 mils a minute. And as it's dribbling away, you can just leave it for 24 hours. All filters need a flush. RO systems need a longer flush because it just takes so long for the water to go through them. Failing that, you can let the water build up in the tank, and it'll take a fair few hours for it to fill up in the tank, and you can come along, hit the faucet, and the bag will push the water out of the tank, and it'll all go down the drain. And then when it stops, when the tank's empty, it's going to go back to a dribble, and you'll only be receiving water out of the tap at the speed that the system's making it, and that'll be dependent on the pressure that you've got coming into your home. So if you've got 100 psi of pressure coming into your home, sure, the pressure limiting valve's going to knock it back a bit, but failing that, you know, even the pressure limiting valve knocking it back to 60 psi, whatever, you'll have reduced pressure, but still good pressure. So you'll be making a bit of water out of the tap. If you've got 30 psi, well, you'd be battling to get it to go probably, because you really want at least 40 psi, 40 pounds per square inch of water pressure in your home for the water system to work well, and that's generally a given in Australia. It normally is. Very few times we see lower than 40 psi, so these Aquasanas will generally work anywhere in Australia. Okay, so that is the system, and once you've dropped the tank about 3 times, so I would repeat it. If you turn it on and just flush it for 24 hours, do that. If you're worried about wastewater, etc., fill up the tank, dump it down the drain. Fill up the tank, dump it down the drain, fill up the tank, dump it down the drain. I'd do it probably 3 times. It's brand spanking new. You want to get it all the taste out of the new cartridges, get rid of any new plastic taste, things like that. Okay? Just two things that we got left here now, and this is the connection for connecting the faucet. Now, if you just use a faucet like we've used there today, then they're generally just a 12.5 millimeter shaft on the bottom of the faucet. Okay, and that's I'm talking about this one here. So this faucet being installed for Aquasana, you got 3 pipes on it. So you've got to drill a hole in your sink, and please do check it, but I think it's around the 20-something millimeter, 22 millimeter hole you've got to drill, so you can fit all of those 3 pipes down through the hole in the sink. All right, but normally, like this faucet here, it's only got 1 hose on it, so it doesn't have those 2 red hoses. So normally all sinks just have a 13 mil hole drilled in them, even a 12.5 mil hole drilled in them. That shaft will go straight through the sink. You tighten them up on that nut there, you screw this connection on the bottom, and you plug the hose on it, and it's all over and done. All right, so now with this one here being the Aquasana, you know, like most people are going to install the Aquasana faucet because that's what comes with the system. So pull this nut off the bottom like I am now, okay? You can get the components out of this bag here. Now up on top of the sink, you'll put on this chrome washer, and underneath that is the rubber washer, okay? So both of those, actually, sorry. There's an O-ring first, all right? Now that O-ring goes over all of these. So you do have to undo the hoses, which we would have done. Okay, so you would undo all of the hoses like so. Okay, so you would put that O-ring on there over all of the hoses on there, and that black O-ring has to fit into the slot there, right? So it comes down on top of the sink, okay? Now, from there, you're also got this, these two here, all right? Okay, so that'll go onto there. We got our rubber washer on, we got our chrome plate and our black washer, and they're going to push down through the hole on the top of the sink. And then coming up from underneath, the first one that goes on is this U plate. We're on with our plate under the sink. We've got this spacer as well, and as that spacer goes up, plate's on first, our spacer's on second, our washer's on third, and then we do up our locker nut at the bottom. Okay, he's going to lock onto your sink wherever it goes. We'll just tighten him up, lock him up into place. On the bottom goes our hose connector. And our water hose will connect into there. Okay, alrighty, so we're good to go there. But as I said to you today, use the other style, haven't gone with the Aquasana. We'll just plug that one straight up and into the hose there. Alright, now when you're having a read of the instruction manual, you'll see in there that it suggests that you can flush the tank and flush the lines with a bit of bleach, all right? So take a look at that. You can sterilise it before you start, and all of that information is there in the instructions. Here's an eyedropper that you can get a bit of bleach and drip a couple of drops in at the required amount. And here is a little test that can be in there as a nitrite test kit. And if that interests you, you can have a go on that as well. Okay, so that's pretty much it. You don't have a lot of problems with them at all, I'll be honest there. With these cartridges, when you're going to change the cartridges, I do like to turn the water off here at the incoming water line. I do like to turn the water off at the tank. I do like to hit the faucet and drop the pressure. It is possible to just get these cartridges and turn them, okay, and pull them down and then unscrew them like we did earlier, and pull this cartridge out, replace it, throw it away, put the new one in and screw it back up. Now you can do it while it's under pressure, but like I say, I do prefer to turn the pressure off, okay? It just takes all the pressure out of the system, and it's much easier, okay? Same with the membrane. When you're going to change this membrane, turn the pressure off, pull it down, get hold of this little collar, push it in, pull this out. When you get your new membrane, make sure you pull this off, put the new flow restrictor in, plug him back on. Plug him back on. Okay, so I can't think of anything else that goes wrong with these systems. I really can't. We haven't had too many dramas at all. I've run over putting the alternative faucet on, and if you don't want to run it through the faucet and down the drain, you can just have the normal faucet like every other RO system in the country does and connect it up like this. But have a read of the book. As I said to you, it's all there in colour as well. It's very easy to read. Any dramas, any problems, give us a yell. Happy to help you out. Good day.